It won't have the stop-start thing that the Saturn and Aries would have. It would be, this is it, it pays me well, I'm going to stay at this job. You know, if it doesn't pay me well, what am I doing here? Like, the reward factor of Taurus comes in and affects the Saturn. If it's in Gemini, it's the idea is I'm thinking to myself, this is boring, I don't want to stay at something boring, I want to do something for myself. It's more likely the career or the ambition will jump around because the Saturn is in the mutable, most independent sign, least responsible, least involved with other people. Doesn't mean the Saturn in Gemini couldn't work hard, but they'll work hard on 3 or 4 things that they want to do, not what other people are telling them to do. So that's as you do people's charts and see people doing this, you'll accumulate experiential realities that reinforce these insights. You know, because it's more than words. It's how you're being, and it's the texture of things. So as you meet someone that has it, or you have a kid that has it, or husband has it, first you see yourself, and you see at a certain point, but then you see how other people are different, and we're approach this different. But I mean, we interact with everybody with their different planets, my different planets. We interact with all their different levels of consciousness. We really only wonder how many people do we know that we actually are trying to assess their sense of commitment and responsibility, as opposed to having fun, talking, doing other things. It's not the first thing we look at in the first place, but it's still the anchor that's there. When you have someone that you're working together with and you're doing the same things, boy, it makes it easy to talk and do other things. Or if you have something you're busy to be absorbed in and working on, with Saturn and Gemini, you figure you got to have a diversity of things that you're working on, but you got to be working on improving yourself so you can be more free and more independent, and you have respect in that area. If you're not good at something and you haven't done enough work, boy, you'll never get the respect. Okay, so that's the springtime. It's more I me, trying to be more I me, and Saturn's I'm not being I me, and if I have to work harder to do my own thing. But as you're working harder to do your own thing, you're not necessarily being sensitive to what other people are doing. When you get to the summer, that Cancer, Leo, Virgo, this is the independent signs, but the nighttime is increasing. So I'm doing my thing, but I'm being pulled involved more and more. I've got to do something. It's very simply the Cancer. If I have a home, I'm going to have to pay taxes or fix it. If I have a kid, Leo, I'm going to have to work extra time to make my kid be best. You know, if I have a job or I'm working at a special skill, I'm going to put extra effort into making myself better at that skill. So it has the freedom, but it's trying to get better and be more functional in the ideas of others. So Saturn there is naturally inclined to take up skills that I can do that are useful to other people, but I can still work somewhat independently with. So sometimes a person may take a traditional job, but it's to allow them to do something more independent, to make use of it. So this Cancer, Leo, Virgo, these are the signs, the summer signs, which are about enjoying yourself, having fun in the summer. It's beautiful, but it's the opposite of Saturn. And it's ruled by the sun and the moon, the feelings and the tide and the ideas of Mercury. So these I, me signs become overly cautious and inhibited or depressed by the Saturn being, when Saturn's there, it puts a security defensive element in those signs, but that defense has a Cancer feeling to it, has a Cancer sensitivity, has a Leo sensitivity to it. And you see the point where they're likely to be depressed, inhibited, or working. And there could be 1,000 things one could be depressed about, but you're going to see 2 or 3 of these might be really family or mother related or home related or security related. And it's going to affect the commitments that you would take on. But as a function of self-discipline, the Saturn is in Cancer. I don't feel like doing something. Saturn is depressing. But if I want to improve my feelings or I want to invest in my security, I need to work to improve my security. What can I do to improve it? But I don't. There's a contradiction, and it tends to magnify the emotional quality of the sign, tends to magnify the Saturn and the worries. And because I have those worries, I'm going to have to work to replace those worries. And the Saturn, in Leo, you have the restriction to my glory or my kids or whatever. I'm going to have to work to take care of those things. That's the I meanness of it. but it's still working to take care of some things for my kids or for whatever. If I have a skill, I got to make it better and be better so I can keep working at it and be the best in the field and still be more and more useful to others, but it's still my skill. That's so Saturn there, it causes an intolerance to restrictions of a personal nature, but because I don't want to be insecure at home, I don't want to feel bad about my kids, I don't want to feel bad about what I'm doing, the work that I'm doing, I'm going to work harder I'm going to be inhibited or reserved about it, but then I'll hold myself back, but I'm going to be working to be able to get better at this. And that's the logic of the Saturn that would come in on that. Like I say, these are like oceans. We go into it, it would be easy to spend a couple hours on just in one sign, in one degree, and look at all the different categories and levels that are building up the influences. So this goes on forever. We're just taking the main themes that stand out so you get your comfort in listening to the music and knowing how it works and being able to navigate through it and make sense out of it. And then seeing how they all fit together. So we don't see all the same planets at the time, we get glimpses. So we're talking Saturn now, so we're seeing some of these things, and it'll, for years you're going to be reflecting and picking up and seeing one planet more than another, and eventually they all come more together, they fit more together. But it takes work and consistency to be able to get that lucidity and have the literacy of astrology working that well, so you can look in and see it. Words never express it properly, but we're using language to learn about it, so I have to use the words to try and talk about the point and the directions that how it's useful. Most astrology is on planets in a sign. It's caused a problem. Saturn's in this house, is going to cause a problem in the house. We're not looking at the attitude to Saturn that Saturn picks up. And that attitude to Saturn is going to condition your attitude to responsibilities. And if you see that, then you see that attitude, and then you see the house it's in and the areas that it could work at, you can begin to see where you have to work. Okay, it's like you learn a music, and it's a musical instrument, but it takes time to learn the instrument, then it takes more time to learn to play with another person. It takes even more time to learn to play with 2 or 3 people in a band and hold your part together, and you learn as you go. But if you haven't learned those things and you're playing a band, you're not going to make it because you're not functioning that well. So the solar system is each planet's like a musician in the celestial band, and they're each playing their own themes. Sometimes they harmonize, sometimes they don't, but you're going to play your theme anyway. So when we get to the fall, the Libra, Scorpio, Sag, you have the nighttime increasing and nighttime is greater. So Saturn there is really involved in how we affect each other, how we're responsible for whether we're fitting in, whether we're not fitting in. Our last 7 years in the world has been Saturn going through these signs. So all the kids up to 7 have this now. They feel inhibited about not being good enough in the group, but they want to be part of the team, and they're strongly affected by peer pressure and affecting judgments. The inhibition around relationships, around passions, around travel or understanding or of group activities. So Saturn is, I want to be achieved. I want to be responsible in a relationship, or I don't want to be. I want to be committed in a relationship. I want a commitment in a relationship. I'm going to work towards this commitment. I want to work towards making it interesting so we can travel or do things. So the Saturn is kind of like that. It's being colored by that attitude, to participate, to see what others are doing, to be good enough to keep up. But first it's going to feel, I'm not good. I want to play baseball. I can't play good enough. I want to go skiing, but I'm not good enough. You have to take the lessons to learn it, to do it. You have to find time to do that in the midst of all the other commitments you have with other people. So often the Saturn in the Libra, Scorpio, and Sag is going to be having to bounce off someone else or react to someone else to see the discontent in it, and get pressure from other people to try and be responsible and make commitments. It's socially motivated to take on commitments, but not so motivated to do one's own thing so much. So I was just looking at that, the nighttime is greater, nighttime increasing, so all the social and responsibilities increasing, and the time to put into these commitments, and your respect will come from that. But that energy itself is going against the need of just working to do something independently for myself. So they can get a job and work within that context, but they may not be quick to try and build up a career they want just for themselves. Okay. So once we picked up, the 4 seasons are just really the reflection of daylight increasing, nighttime increasing, daylight is greater, nighttime is greater. Trying to be more free and more independent, trying to be more responsible and belong more, or being more independent and being more responsible. And those attitudes come in and affect the Saturn. This is the whole process. We're stretching how we see Saturn. So like even when I'm talking this, as soon as I say 3 or 4 things, I realize, oh, I missed something else, or I missed something, and I just have to start from somewhere to build up this sense of structure. Okay, now once you got that basic attitude, the seasonal attitude, then you see if you're going to project it out or reflect on it. So the Saturn projecting out is, I'm going to work towards this, I'm going to try and make something happen, or why am I feeling blocked? I've got to do something to make my Saturn work. I've got to take on commitments, take on responsibilities, be active, project it. So this is a more pro-ambitious. Like everyone can be ambitious in some way, but this is more, I got to go prove something. I got to accomplish something. I got to do something to get somewhere, to advance something. This is in the Aries. I got to go in, I got to do this. I got to make it happen. I don't care if it makes money. I got to try. Gemini. These are a few things I want to do. I'm going to take care of these things, but it's going to act on it. They're not going to wait for other people to do it. I got to do this. I got to figure this out myself. Leo, my way. I got to be best at what I'm doing, and I'm going to have to work hard to be the best and to be able to have the glory of it. And I'm ready to feel depressed about not feeling so much in the glory, and then not feeling noticed enough, and then feeling it's not fair. I'm going to have to work to get better than that. And it involves kids, home, as kids, and education, and Leonian and performance. So it's a need to work on one's performance, Saturn and Leo. It's in a sign for everybody for 2.5 years will have this. Saturn will be in a certain sign. So like the whole school group, your school you went through, almost everybody in your school, in your class, as you go through it, will have that same thing. If you fail a year, then it's possible, you still might have some people in the same Saturn, but you fail a year, you could slip into another Saturn group, which would make you just feel a little more different around it. So, but Libra, projection to relationship. Let's make the commitment. We're meant to be together. We can do this together. See the idea. Here's the plan. Let's go for it. It's got to project the plan. In Sag, it's going to see an understanding of where one wants to go, where one wants to be, a team, a group, or some place that one wants to be involved in, and then one starts to get to know people and be involved and put in time to get involved in the ambition will work. It'll be projected out towards interacting with others. And in Aquarius, towards the knowledge, it knows what it's doing. It's going to project it. I want to work at what I know. I know what I want. I know what I know. I'm going to try and work towards this. Nobody's listening to me. What's wrong with them? I got to work to get more respect. So as we get to the outer planets, it's hard to see them as personally as we can see the Moon, Mercury, Venus. So it's easy to make personal associations to them. The outer planets, they're more distant. They're more aloof. You don't have as quick a fix or just as quick a handle on them. They take a little bit of time to observe, think, reflect, to try and zone in on it or tune into it. That's normal. And so in my talking about this, I'm just presenting these to you so you can, well, it's a standard. You see how it works for you and how you do it. But when Saturn's in the feminine signs, it's reflective. The Taurus, Cancer, the Virgo, Scorpio, Capricorn, of course, these are reflective. The Saturn inhibition is inhibited. They're cautious. It goes within. So the sense of ambition of daylight increasing, nighttime increasing is going to be measured or contemplated on it and taken in, and then it may motivate one to work towards it. It causes the inhibition that requires work to fix. But first you see, this isn't good enough. Why bother? I don't want to do this. You get the depression, and it's held on to. And that holding on to it, eventually you have to work to remove it or to get rid of it. So it's true for both sides, but the projective going out to be ambitious to prove something, and the reflective, wait a second here. I don't know which way, I'm not sure which way. That caution is in the reflection, in the feminine signs.